What's up, y'all? You're listening to the Extra Point College Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Carnes, joined as always by my co-host, Daniel Hammock. Danny, we've made it to week 9 of the college football season, which is, bittersweet because that means the season's over halfway done at this point, even including our national championship game. So we did miss an episode of recap there, a little under the weather for both of us. But we're back. Excited to pick games for this week.
We're over the weather now.
That's right. Big week this week. This is not one of these so-called sleeper weeks for college football. A lot of big games. We're going to be talking about Michigan State and Michigan, Miami and Pittsburgh, Texas and Baylor, the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, Georgia and Florida, Ole Miss and Auburn, Penn State and Ohio State, and Virginia against BYU. It's also a big weekend, Daniel, for you and I because, hey, the World Series is here in Atlanta, tied 1-1, and the Braves haven't lost at home yet.
That's true. And so we got the next 3 games at home, Braves in 5. That's what we're looking at.
Braves in 5. That's the kind of energy I need. That's the kind of energy I need for picks this week is Braves in 5. Yeah. I need to play like the Braves. I got a long way to go. At this point, I don't know if I'm going to catch you because even if we picked against each other each game, which isn't good strategy, but I don't know if it's physically possible. You're going to have some bad weeks.
Yeah.
So I'm rooting for you to have some bad weeks personally. But, hey, shout out, 63% against the spread. That's dang good.
I feel pretty good about it. Hey, also, you're talking about this big week as far as games and stuff like that. I would argue one of the most, if not the most important week for college football because what do we get next Tuesday, Jacob?
Rankings.
College football playoff rankings. First ones are released. And though they've been playing for 9 weeks, you've got to feel like this is the last time to make a first impression. So if you can be on that ballot, as close to the top 4 as possible, Cincinnati, if you can blow somebody out this weekend, those kinds of teams, if you can be in that fresh frame of mind when they're putting the pen to paper for that first ranking, that's, I think, very important. Not necessarily the pole position because we've seen that change a bunch, but I think especially for teams like a Cincinnati or someone who's got to kind of play their way in over the course of the last few weeks, the closer to that top 4 you are, the better, because those teams could lose and you could find yourself in the playoff.
Daniel, at the end of this episode, don't let me forget, at the end of the episode, I want you to give me your prediction for what the top 4 will be on Tuesday night.
Okay.
So that factoring in this week, that's why I said at the end of the episode,
Perfect.
I will see what your top 4 will be at the end of Tuesday, I guess. So, Daniel, before we dive into the 7 games we talked about, what is a game we're not picking that you're excited to watch this weekend?
Well, Jacob, I came prepared, but only to talk about the Braves. So I was going to be watching the Braves game. They're playing that on Saturday. They're playing game 4, which would be the game I'm watching that night.
That's right.
if I must, I'd probably go. I'm interested to see, honestly, Georgia Tech and Virginia Tech. That's one that I've kind of had a little pin in that, we're picking a lot of the games that I'm really going to be focused on, but that's another one I'm probably going to have on a secondary screen. What is Justin Fuente? What is Virginia Tech? And then conversely, I think it's a big what if game for both teams. What are you, Georgia Tech? Are you a team that's going to capitalize on this and build forward? And I think it would be Georgia Tech's the type of team, because we're still tabbing them as a rebuild from the Paul Johnson era. If they got to a bowl game this year, Jacob, I think that would go a long way program building wise because of all the extra practices and what they could put towards kind of banking some reps for next year. So if Georgia Tech could win this game, I think that's going to put them in a decent shot to get to a bowl game this year. We'll see how the rest of the season plays out, but the rest of the season not looking quite as tough. Obviously, they've got that game against Georgia, but the Notre Dame and the they beat North Carolina, so those games aren't so bad. So that's something I'm going to keep an eye on.
I've got 2. One is usually I would go my WTF game of the week right here, but my WTF wrong team favorite game of the week is on the card.
Okay.
So we'll save that one. Iowa and Wisconsin. The over-under in this game is 36.5.
Oh my gosh.
It's the lowest over under so far for the season. So if
And it's
you
not
love
Service
defense,
Academy. That's
and it's
amazing.
not a service academy. So
Neither one. That's ridiculous.
if you love good defense and really bad offense, this game is sexy. So I'm honestly really excited to watch this because, like, here's the thing. Did they just blow? Like, Wisconsin found an offense last week. So did they blow this total, or is this like a 13-10 game and they cruise to the
It's
under?
what we've all asked for. If it's above 16-13, I don't want it. Like,
that's right. Dude, 6-3 would be ideal. 3-2, all those. So another one, Mississippi State and Kentucky. This is one of these like weird lines. Mississippi State a 1-point favorite. It's almost a pick 'em there. Of course, Kentucky ranked 12th, 6-1. Mississippi State 4-3. So just interesting matchup in the SEC. So those are two fun games. But Daniel, let's dive into the card. Hey, big noon Saturday, the Fox kickoff. We got a big one. Michigan State and Michigan. And this is for the first time since, was it 1971, that both teams entered this game undefeated? Or maybe it was the 50s. It's something crazy like that. And the top 10. Totals of 50.5. Michigan State at home, but they're a 4-point dog at home to Michigan. Number 6, number 8 in the AP. It seems like a pretty evenly matched game. 4 points to Michigan. Daniel, where are you going? Where are you going up in the Michigan game Saturday?
College Game Day is there too, which is funny because you have the Fox network being there and ESPN. So it's ESPN's taken, SEC Nation with them places, but this is the first time you've got two kind of competing entities at the same place. So that is interesting. This one, man, it's tough to get a read on. I've kind of all of our games that we've picked, this is the one I've been the most indecisive on. This is the time when I would typically start to fade a Michigan State team that I think to this point has overperformed. Their skill set and all this kind of stuff. Hats off to Mel Tucker and this staff, Jay Johnson, just what they've done to get this team ready week in, week out. Have just enough players. Kenneth Walker at running back, that's been a steal in the transfer portal.
100%.
And it's just been remarkable to see. Obviously, the small strides they made last year in a year that they expected zero or negative effects. And then this year they're just, hey, we're ready to go. We're ready to compete. So I do think they're about a year ahead. I say that with, Michigan kind of having their best year in a while. I do think Michigan is the better team, but specifically in this game, Michigan State's at home and they get 4 points. In many places you see 4.5 points. So that makes me kind of want to lean back to Michigan State. I do think that Michigan's going to come in this game with a good game plan offensively and defensively. I think that running the ball, which is what they're really good at, that travels. I think I would be worried if I actually had money on this game on Michigan because they've been known to kind of blow it here. You remember that punt a few years back, the punt block. I'm going to take Michigan, though. My gut is telling me that this is them. They're the better team. Michigan's, day in the sun to get, exposed is coming, but it's not this day. This is the day they expose Sparty. So Michigan lay the 4 points.
Ooh, so I totally thought you were going the other way. I actually wrote down Michigan State for you, and then you went the other way. So let me ask you this, Daniel. If Michigan State does win this game and Mel Tucker is 2-0 against Michigan, I know Michigan's undefeated. Does the seat warm up? If Michigan goes 10-2 and loses to Michigan State and Ohio State, how warm is the seat for Jim Harbaugh?
I just think a lot of the fans and any of the donors, high-ranking donors that matter, just they don't care as much as like the mainstream media does about that record. I think the fact that he runs a clean program, he's a Michigan guy, I feel like they're not getting embarrassed on a year in, year out basis. It's just tough to say. And like me saying all that is also to say, if they were to get rid of him, it's kind of the Gus Malzahn argument. If you're going to get rid of him, then who are you going to go get to be better than him? And I know at a certain point, if someone's embarrassing your school or doing all these crazy things, not winning or whatever, then yeah, you need to move on from them. But I just don't get that vibe with him. I think he would leave them before they'll get rid of him.
That's a good point. So I think this will be a lower scoring game. This game I broke down more than other games because I think they're so similar, and you're splitting hairs here.
Right.
Michigan State being at home and getting 4 points is like intriguing, right? Like you read that and you're like, okay, they're both undefeated. They've both looked pretty good. They both look similar. There's 4 points there. So let's look at Michigan's offense against Michigan State's defense. So one, Michigan has had great success running the ball, and I think they can have success against Michigan State's defense now. So, I mean, this is a Michigan offense that is top 25 in EPA per rush. Like, they have their identity. They've been a smash mouth football team. Harbaugh ball for sure. Michigan State's defense actually has not been like, they're not a top 40 team against the run, right? So number two, quality possessions. Michigan is, their offense has been extremely efficient. You can say it's old school all you want, but they're getting quality possessions. And quality possessions really defined as like, A, are you getting a first down inside the 40? So do you have the ball first and 10 inside the 40? And then are you scoring when you get inside the 40 after you get there? So like, they're a top 15 team in quality possessions, Michigan is. Then you get in the red zone though. Michigan State has a great red zone defense. And like, I think Michigan State can win some battles down there. Michigan's offense has not been great on first and second down, which is probably why, I mean, if you're very predictable and you know you're running the ball, they've not been great on first and second down. That's where Michigan State, I think, can take advantage against Michigan's offense. But Michigan has had incredible success on third down. Like, they're not getting it on first and second down, but they're top 10 in the country in success rate on third down. Like, they're getting first downs. They're in Michigan State is outside the top 50 in getting off the field in third down. So I think Michigan's offense can have some success against Michigan State's defense. Now, Michigan State has had the more explosive offense, specifically in the passing game. They've had a more explosive offense. And for a team that we think has run the ball really well, it's funny because I watch one thing with my eyes, but Michigan State ranks 66 in the country in EPA per rush. Like statistically speaking, they're not great at being explosive running the ball. And this is where Michigan, top 10 in the country in that category. So I think Michigan has been limiting explosive running on offense. So I think it's a big area Michigan could take advantage of. And then lastly, I mean, Michigan State has had great success on early downs, but just like the Michigan State all these Michigan teams, I'm sorry.
Right, it's tough.
Just like the Wolverines offense has been successful on third down and staying on the field, the Wolverine defense has been incredibly successful getting off the field on third down. And so I think that's where this game is won, is Michigan is a better third down team. And I think in a game where you're splitting hairs, third downs matter. Michigan has been getting first downs on offense. They've been getting off the field on defense, stopping teams on third down. I think Michigan wins this game by a touchdown. I do think it's close, but with a touchdown, I'll lay the 4. And hey, we're looking at an 8-0 Michigan team. That's who'd have thought going into this year when Jim Harbaugh restructured his contract, 8-0 Michigan. And they have an identity. Like, they're just playing smash mouth football and they have a really good defense. And they're just doing it. They know who they are. And I think that's important is, hey, if you know the kind of players you got, just be you. Don't try to listen to everybody else and go spread. Just be you. And go 10-2. And at this point, I mean, do I think they're going to beat Penn State? Yeah, right now I do. So, I mean, this could be an 11-1 Michigan team. And what if they beat Ohio State? Like, the narrative completely changes around Jim Harbaugh.
Does.
Don't take it off the table yet. Maybe we'll get to Ohio State. All right, so we're both on Michigan. That's a huge game. I'm really excited to watch that one, Daniel.
Oh yeah, I'm glad that these are all in different windows. So, that'll be fun.
Pittsburgh and Miami. So, Pitt. Man, you and I were on Pitt last year. We called ourselves a Pitt pod. We were Kenny Pickett fans. We said, hey, they're going to beat Clemson. When they were like 4-3 playing Clemson last year, we're like, don't worry. They got them right where they want them.
They got them right where they want them.
They got them right where they want them. it just turns out that we were a year early on Pitt. That's all it was. We read the writing on the wall. We were just a year early. So here we go. Yeah. Pitt, he right now I think is the best team in the ACC.
I picked Pitt last week too, though. So
you did pick Pitt last week. So. And here we go. I picked Clemson. Dumb me. We were a Pitt pod. I should have never done that. So not going to make that mistake again. Pittsburgh, they're back. They're the best team in the ACC, and they're 9-point favorites against Miami this week at home. Daniel, I mean, this is a conflict of interest here.
It is.
Miami was our ACC team at the beginning of this year.
This is a team I gassed up. I told you all about. Even if De'Aaron King was out, they'd be fine. But for some reason, they've been not playing Jake Garcia, which it is what it is, a quarterback. But this game, it's less about Miami. Miami isn't, they're kind of just in this turmoil as a team, like kind of a changeover. They're playing a lot more young guys. I think that Manny Diaz is just trying to get some positives out of this season, and so he's trying to create depth and play as many players as he can. Pitt is definitely a school that, man, if they just would have beaten Western Michigan, they would be on a whole nother level right now. But that's exactly what we expect from Pitt. I do expect them to win this game comfortably. 9 points is right around where I feel that this game would be, but I'm going to lay it. I think that a 10-point win feels right. I think they're going to control this game for the most part. Kenny Pickett, best quarterback in the ACC.
Heisman hopeful.
Best quarterback in the nation potentially. Mel Kiper famously came out this week and said number one quarterback on his board is Kenny Pickett. So that is a little bit surprising because it's one of these things where you take a step back and say, okay, college success, what do these pro guys really think? And, Mel Kiper is one of the ones that he's paid to have an opinion, but he's also paid to be as right about this stuff as possible. And so he's talking to a lot of NFL guys, what they're seeing, the stuff that Kenny Pickett's doing is translating. You don't typically see these guys who've been around schools for 10 years like Kenny Pickett has go pro. But, Joe Burrow was a fifth-year senior, and he was, I think, 24 when he got drafted. So, you've seen the year that he's having now. So I think that they're not scared to take these guys as they're, older, where they can, have more years for them or whatever. Like if they were a little bit younger, if they got someone at 20 years old versus 24. So that's something to consider. But I think Kenny Pickett, specifically in this game, is going to light up Miami's defense. I just think that their offense is moving too much. Defensively, I think they're solid. I think they'll kind of keep Miami in check. I think Miami is going to hurt themselves mostly. But even if Miami gives them their best shot, I think a 10-point victory feels comfortable.
The Pitt Pod is back. Look, if you look at some advanced stats or even common stats in this game, Pitt should blow Miami out. There's a reason, this is a 9-point spread on this game. Here's the thing, though. Look, De'Aaron King got hurt. That kind of ruined our chances at ACC champion Miami. Jake Garcia goes down with an injury, out 4 weeks, beginning of October. So in comes Tyler Van Dyke, who's not played well until last week when he threw for 325 yards and 4 touchdowns against NC State, who I thought was the second best team in the ACC. So big win last week. I think Pitt wins this game. I think Miami carries that momentum and keeps this game close. So look, Pitt Pod is definitely back. I think Pitt wins 34-31. I think 9 is just too many points. I think Miami looked like a different team last week. I think that Manny Diaz is coaching for his job right now. And here's a fun stat. This is from Tom Fernelli. And I think he actually got it from the Bear on ESPN. Prior to last week, ACC underdogs, 14-4 straight up. Not even against the spread, straight up. AKA, no one in the ACC should ever be favored. Now, ACC underdogs are now 18-10 straight up. So still a pretty good record. And against the spread, it's even better than that. So I will take Miami plus the points here and kind of hot because, look, it's conflicting interest right now. I feel like you were higher on Miami and I was higher on Pitt in those respective years. So anyway, sorry, Pitt. I still think you win, but 9 points is a whole lot of points. I will take Miami and hopefully gain a game back on you, Daniel. Let's go to Texas. Waco, Texas. So Baylor hosting the Longhorns. Baylor a 3-point favorite.
Rumor is they're playing this game on the silos with Chip and Joanna.
That's exactly
as
right.
The guest referees.
So look, Baylor's been sneaky good, and now they're a 3-point favorite against Texas. You laying those points, Daniel? You brave enough to lay these points with Baylor?
Well, this is the battle for Torchy's tacos, is what it is. It's Baylor versus Texas. Texas, I think we've really gone to the well a lot with Texas. They've had, they're 4-3 now. It's tough to. It's a tough year. It's a tough game. Especially for a team like Texas, where every win, everybody's asking if they're back. Every loss, they're being mocked by everybody. It's tough to carry that banner as the title school of the state of Texas, where football is most famous. It's just like this whole psychological deal that they have to deal with. But I think that from just a straight up football standpoint, I think Baylor's a very solid team. I think they're very strong defensively and on special teams. Offensively, they're, I think, a very opportunistic team. Texas is that explosive offensive team. I think that Baylor is going to be able to kind of keep them in check over the course of this game. But I do think that Texas is going to have too much for them eventually win this game outright. But Texas gets 3 points. I like Texas in this game, so I'm going to take the 3 points and Texas on the road at Baylor.
You taking them straight up?
I'm taking them straight up.
So Baylor's been sneaky good, and they actually control their own destiny in the Big 12. Like, they've got one loss in the Big 12, still with Oklahoma to play. They control their own destiny. They went out. They are in the Big 12 championship for the second time in 4 years. Texas, well, and here's the thing. Baylor should be undefeated. Like, when they lost to Oklahoma State, they dominated the box score. Some turnovers cost them that game. 3-point favorites against Texas. Here's the thing. Texas is off a bye. Texas has not been able to finish games. If they finish some of the games, they go a big end. They're 6-1. And I don't think they're a 3-point dog at Baylor right now. I think this is a game where Texas takes the bye week, circles the wagons, figure out what's going on with them not being able to close out games, and they close out a game here. So I'll take Texas straight up. I'll take them plus the 3 points. I think Texas wins in Waco and attempts to start their race back towards the Big 12 championship, which is not off the table. So it's a circle the wagons game. I will say some trends going against us here. Baylor's 5-2 against the spread. Michigan 6-1 against the spread. Big for us there. Pitt 6-1 against the spread. So some good against the spread teams so far that we've talked about. All right, 3:30 CBS, the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. Florida and Georgia in Jacksonville. This is the second largest point spread that Georgia's been a favorite in. The last time they were a double-digit favorite was 2017. So before that, Florida was a big favorite in the 90s, and Georgia won straight up when Florida was a big favorite in the 90s. So, hey, 14 points is a lot, but anything can happen in the cocktail party. Both teams coming off a bye. Where are you going in Jacksonville, Daniel?
Yeah, that was in 1997. Florida was a 21-point favorite, and the head coach of the Georgia Bulldogs was playing safety for that team and intercepted
That's right.
Florida Gators twice. So led them to a victory that day. So no one has to tell Kirby Smart about upset victories in this rivalry.
That's right.
He knows all about them. That's one thing this, I think, rivalry, if anything, this 14-point spread would scare me most because it is a rivalry game and because weird things have happened in this game over the course of time. I do think that Georgia is better at every position. Really, you look across the board. I don't know one position that I would necessarily lean Florida. Maybe if we're talking secondary, because for the sheer fact that Georgia has felt like they haven't maybe had to be tested in the secondary because the front seven's been so good. But even away from that, I wouldn't necessarily. That would be more of a push. I do think that Florida has a great run blocking offensive line. I think that if they use their quarterbacks the right way as far as running them, things like that, I think they could really put pressure on Georgia, but they're running into the teeth of what Georgia's strength is, which is stopping the run. And they're going to try to make either Emory Jones or Anthony Richardson beat them through the air. And both of them have a track record for throwing interceptions. So I think that Florida's going to come out swinging. Dan Mullen's going to empty the playbook. He's going to do all he can. It's not like last year where he's got these skilled players that overmatch the defense and stress you and put you in all these binds. I think that Georgia is ready for it this year. And with Jordan Davis playing this year, he didn't play last year. I think Jordan Davis can be very hungry to, make his impression, make his presence felt in this game. I expect there to be a few sacks from Georgia's defense. I think they're going to play contain a lot on these quarterbacks. Now, Georgia offensively, that's been the biggest question. We don't know, is JT Daniels playing? First of all, is he healthy? Is he starting? If he is healthy and ready to play and they still start Stetson Bennett, is that the future? What's going on? All these questions. Kirby is never going to give an answer until it's game day because he's a gamesmanship guy. He wants the defense to have to prepare for both. That's just always what he's going to do.
Always.
I do think that both will somehow find their way in the game at some point. My gut's telling me that JT, if he's healthy, is just going to play and be the guy, and they're just going to roll with it. That's the thing, though. They've won with both quarterbacks, and I think that no matter who they start, they think they win this game. I think they win more handily if JT starts. I think they might win by an additional touchdown or possession. I'll call it a possession, scoring possession, whether that's touchdown or a field goal if they play JT. But I think regardless, they're going to cover this game. I think Georgia is we've seen too many of these games be 30-something to 10 or 13 or something like that. So I'm not sure if I'm convinced that Florida is going to be the first one to score more than 13 against Georgia this season. So give me the dogs, and I'm going to lay the 14.
Give me a score.
I would say something like 30, 35. We'll go 35 to 13. Yeah.
Both teams are going to play two quarterbacks. But these are two teams going on opposite directions. Florida's offense, their best chance at beating Georgia and scoring against this defense is hitting explosive pass plays and getting first downs via scramble. Design quarterback runs have not worked against Georgia. It's been some scrambling. And even then, Auburn tried it, and Bo Nix had negative rushing yards. So, again, I think it's going to take something special to get scramble yards against Georgia. The best chance of that is Anthony Richardson. Like, that's Florida's best chance to do this, is for him to just be the guy. He has a bigger arm than Emory Jones. He's a more accurate passer than Emory Jones. He's better and bigger on his legs than Emory Jones. Florida's best chance to win this game is rolling with Anthony Richardson. I think they're playing two quarterbacks, so I think that's going to come to hurt them. Florida's wide receivers remind me a lot of Clemson in that they've got several big-bodied wide receivers that are go up and get the ball guys. They're missing their Kadarius Toney this year. That's what they're missing from the offense. And they don't have a Kyle Pitts. Last year, Florida burned Georgia on running backs and linebacker matchups. I think Georgia knows that. And with this defense, that's not going to happen again. I can't find an advantage that Florida has against, like Florida's offense has against Georgia's defense. On the opposite side, I think there's some myths around Georgia's offense so far. The myth is that this is a running offense that passes the ball sometimes. I'm just telling you, EPA per rush, you know where Georgia ranks in the country, Daniel? 81.
I was going to say they're at less than 50th. I know, or
outside the top 80.
Yeah.
In EPA per rush. Wonder what the EPA per pass is? 6th in the country. 6th.
Wow.
There's a myth that this has been an explosive running offense that likes to pass the ball a little bit. Georgia's offense has been explosive passing the ball. There's some serious smoke around JT Daniels starting on Saturday. He's playing like that. Like, I think they're going to split some snaps a little bit. There's some rumors to him starting. Georgia's also getting 4 of their top 5 wide receivers back that they've been missing this week, and they're all back to 100%. They've been resting. The crazy thing is some of them have been able to play and sat out while Georgia played 3 straight ranked opponents. I think that Kirby Smart knows what kind of team he has. He knows how good this defense is. The fact that he hasn't played a JT Daniels who apparently was ready to go against Kentucky, like for these top 5 wide receivers who have been ready to go, who have maybe gotten in a couple plays just to get some reps. I think Georgia as is would have covered the spread. I think Georgia getting these receivers back, and I think JT Daniels is going to be the guy. I think, like you said, Kirby's like, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say JT Daniels plays the majority of the snaps on Saturday. And if that's the case, I think this is the first game this season where we see Georgia's offense unleashed. And I'm going to go on a limb here, 45-13. I think Georgia puts a stamp on the number one team as the number 1 team in the country this week. And just, hey, in case you forgot, like, this is what we can be. And I think there's a chance that they're more explosive. Again, it's balance. I think there's a chance you give up more points if you're explosive. I think Georgia has purposely throttled down a little bit because they know how good this defense is. They're taking some more time on drives. But I think this is a game where if you're Georgia, you get a little bit of a lead and you start to play with your offense, honestly. And because I think you're going to need that later on down the road is an explosive offense. You got to be able to win both ways. So I'm going to go out on a little bit of a limb. I think Georgia covers easy. I think Georgia blows them out on Saturday. I think there's a really good chance. And look, after the way 4-1 last year, Rusty Manziel said this is the shortest handshake in college football. Dan Mullen and Kirby Smart do not like each other. This is not like a Kirby Smart and Mark Stoops where he's got respect for him and all this kind of stuff. Dan Mullen does not like Kirby Smart. Kirby Smart does not like Dan Mullen. And so if there's a chance to blow this score open, Kirby's going to do it. And I think he does it on Saturday. So I'll lay the points with Georgia pretty easy. This next game might be my favorite game of the week. Auburn and Ole Miss. You're essentially playing, again, this is a time for another round of who's the second best team in the SEC West. What is this, round 3 or 4 at this point?
At least.
Auburn and Ole Miss. Auburn at home, a 2.5-point favorite against Ole Miss. Daniel, where are you going on the Plains?
Yeah, that got everybody's eyes looking at it. I do think that if you were just taking away like this season and you're just kind of putting up traditionally Auburn, Ole Miss, who do you expect to win? You know, most people would probably say Auburn. Auburn's just, I don't want to call them a blue bud, but just generally speaking, better program year in, year out.
Better. Yeah.
Should beat them. Athletic profile.
They've won the SEC West. They've won a national championship.
Right. They have a higher ceiling, tend to have a higher ceiling. The last two quarterbacks for Ole Miss to beat Auburn in Jordan-Hare were Chad Kelly beat him one time. And then before that, it was Eli Manning. So this has been not a fun place for Ole Miss to go play on a year and year, every other year basis.
Eli Manning.
Yeah. So that's just something to think about. I think this Ole Miss team is better. You put them on a neutral field. I really am feeling some Ole Miss. I'm concerned, again, just health of the team overall. I think that Ole Miss is finally playing the defense that they've been wanting to play. They're gaining some, valuable experience and, just they're having positive outings. And I think that that's kind of growing on each other. Last week against LSU, I think that was a huge, huge statement. Of course, LSU is struggling, but LSU just smacked Florida while they were, in this season of transition. So Ole Miss could have taken a hit like that, and they didn't. That says a lot about them. I'm interested to see what Auburn comes out with, but I'm going to still stick with Ole Miss. This 2.5 points is just speaking to me. Like, give me the team that I think is better and I'm getting points, and I'm just going to run and hide. I don't have a good feel for how this game is going to go overall, because I do know that Jordan Hare, call it what you want, that is a perfect, like, the noise in there is just tough to play. If it's a big matchup, those fans go above and beyond. It's a night game. They know that it's going to take everything in them. They know that there's a Heisman hopeful on the other, sideline. They're going to be out of their mind. And that's a great college environment. That's just a great college town. So I'm looking forward to watching this one just to see how Ole Miss reacts to it. It's tough to take an offense and especially a passing offense that uses a lot of tempo, and they orchestrate everything. They precision, all this execution, all these are types of things that are very important to Ole Miss on offense. It's tough to go on the road and do it with noise. I just think that they're that good. They'll be able to do it. And if they're not, they get 2.5 points. So hopefully they keep it close.
Everyone's talking about the potential of 11-1 Ole Miss. But you know what we're forgetting to talk about? The potential of 10-2 Auburn, which is on the table. Ole Miss is going to score 30. I think Ole Miss is a get off the bus and score 30, unless you're playing Alabama. But I think the Auburn defense can at least get a few stops with a secondary that's really good at tackling in the open field, which you got to be against Ole Miss. You got to be good at tackling team. And a big front seven. Bo Nix is playing his best football that he's ever played in his whole career. The receivers are starting to catch the ball, one, important. And the receivers are starting to play their best football as well. Like, the Auburn offense is all of a sudden looking competent since the Georgia State game. Like, that was their kind of wake-up call. They won their clunker, kind of. And they're playing their best football right now. They have a two-back tandem that might be the best in the conference. On the opposite side, I think Auburn can get one or two stops. I don't know that the Ole Miss defense can get any stops against Auburn. Like, they might be better than last year, but I mean, like, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see this. I don't know if you can see all the red on the advanced stat chart right here, looking at the Ole Miss defense. It's bad in every category. On every level, the Ole Miss defense is bad. For that reason, I like Auburn to win. I like them to win close. I like the over barely. I would never bet it. It's a 66. It's pretty high to bet an over, but I like Auburn to win like 41-37. And so that's a fun night game. That's a fun football game for especially a casual fan who just loves offense, high scoring.
And have it on a secondary screen while I'm watching the Braves game.
That's right. This is going to be a fun game. I like Auburn to win a close game. It's within a field goal. I'll lay the points with Auburn. And again, then we're talking about, hey, does Auburn beat Alabama at home where Alabama hasn't won since 2015? We forgetting that they haven't beaten Auburn and Jordan Hare since 2015. I'm just saying, it's on the table. 10-2 Auburn.
And if you lump in 2013 with the kick six, they've only won one of their last 4 trips over there. If you want to say it, yeah.
Ohio State and Penn State. Ohio State at home, 18.5-point favorites. Where are you going this Big Ten matchup?
Ooh, it feels really easy, and that worries me a little bit. Ohio State is playing some of their best ball. Now, they've been very much feasting on just overmatched opponents. Their defense has been doing that to subpar offenses. I think that Penn State is a subpar offense as well, with maybe a touch better athletic profile. Obviously, after last week, watching them against Illinois in that crazy, 9 overtime, shootout, basically, 20-18 or whatever the final was, that was remarkable. But I don't know. I just don't trust Penn State to have enough, first of all, to even threaten winning this game. They would just have to have an all-out defensive, slobber knocker to keep them even close. I think it's just my gut. I don't know. I know that Ohio State's defense isn't, the greatest defense or anything like that. They've definitely not been as good as, maybe the past few years that they've been, but I just don't think Penn State's offense is enough to make them pay for it. So I would be surprised if Penn State scores more than 20. I think that's right around the number I feel like they're going to score. And I think that Ohio State gets off the bus with like 40 or 42 points against anybody. So I think they win this game something like 45-20. I think that's kind of where I'm feeling it. I definitely think a 21-point victory would be about right. That's what I feel comfortable. If I'm just looking at the number itself, it's 18.5. I'm comfortable laying 18.5. It felt too easy, which makes me worried. So I'm going to keep an eye on it, but I think Ohio State shouldn't have trouble with Penn State. So give me the Buckeyes, lay the points.
We talked about this earlier in the season, and that is that teams that are truly elite, they hit a certain point in the season where they become, in a sense, unbeatable unless they play another truly elite team. It appears that Ohio State turned that corner. The only thing holding me back a little bit is the level of opponent that they've played since it appeared they turned that corner. But again, it's not how you beat, it's how you beat them. They beat the brakes off these teams. I mean, on offense and defense. And I think it was a bold move. It took a really good head coach for Ryan Day after a game to take play calling duties away from Terry Combs. And he took it like a champ too. Like I gained a lot of respect for him. I don't know if you saw the interview where he was just like, hey, adversity comes. If I were to just walk out in the team, like, what am I teaching these players that we're doing the same thing to? Where we're like, hey, we're going to have this other guy start above you. Like, he's playing better. And he's like, what would I do if I were to act that way? Like, I'm just going to take my new role and run with it. This defense has been clicking. And it seems so small, but something like that off the field where the coaches are like, hey, that's cool. We got a role to do. Let's roll. Let's go win our games.
Right.
That's a big deal. And because of that, Ohio State's playing their best ball. And I do think they've turned that corner. They have flipped that switch. And I'm feeling pretty good about our pick of Ohio State being in and winning the national championship. We'll see about winning. I feel really good about them being in it right now still. Penn State's coming off of a 9 overtime loss where they couldn't get the ball in the end zone with 7 tries from the 3-yard line. So Sean Clifford's clearly not 100%. He looked hobbled in that game. The only thing that might stop Ohio State in this game is the all-red uniforms. So if they need to change back into their silver pants at halftime, by all means, go for it. I encourage it, but I don't think anything's stopping Ohio State Saturday night. I'm with you. I like your score. I put 42-16. Like, I don't know how many times. If you can't get in the end zone from the 3, I don't know how you're going to get in the end zone when you got to go 80 yards. So,
Jacob, would you say that your dream job would be like to be uniform chancellor of college football, or better yet, of all major sports, where basically everybody has to submit a formal request to you. This is our kit. This is what we're going to go with. What do you think? And you have to approve it before every game can be played.
100%. Number one, if anyone submits an Adidas or Under Armour kit to me, just know that it's rejected because Nike has the best template. So auto reject. No, that's not true. There's some good. Like Auburn has great uniforms. Under Armour hasn't messed up their uniforms.
Classic. Yeah, they just didn't mess with them when they. Yeah.
And I like modern uniforms. Like Oregon's are sick. Oregon does the whole modern thing. It's got to be done right.
Yeah, exactly.
It's got to be done right. Baylor does the whole modern thing right. In fact, they did it so well that Green Bay had to copy their uniforms on Sunday. So, I mean,
I feel like people will submit stuff to you, and there'll be some that you're like, all right, change this, and like that's our logo. Like, what are you? Like, yeah, just change it. Like go back to the drawing board.
Look, there's a way to do a bunch of combos right too. Look, Florida. You know what Florida does right? Their stripe. The stripe is consistent between the helmet, the jersey, and the pants. They got 3 colors. They work them all around. They do it well. So there's a team that does it well. Again, this is not hard, people. Ohio State, you're the best home uniform, and one of the best home uniforms in college football. Like, just don't mess with it that much. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. That sounds like a great job for me, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's just like anything. And then LSU, basically, they're just going to submit every single week the white with the, and it's like anytime they put the purple, you're like, no.
I don't know. Are you
the
sure?
white looks really, really good.
It's perfect.
Like you're really gonna mess it up.
Oh goodness, yeah. Anything not traditional LSU would get rejected unless the other team is wearing white at home and they have no choice. Then it's like, all right, maybe
I'll allow it.
Maybe
this one time.
Oh goodness, let's go to the Bronco Bowl.
Yes.
Bronco Bowl, BYU, Virginia. BYU 2.5-point favorites in the Bronco Bowl. Danny, where are you going with this one?
Or shouldn't I pick Bronco if it's going to be the Bronco Bowl?
Maybe.
So we circled this one at the beginning of the year. There's definitely one that we're looking at. Just one that we figured we were going to probably pick as it came up. Virginia.
It was supposed to be played last year in Virginia.
That's right.
And COVID,
that's right.
This is a home and home. So
I think they're remaking it next year.
Yeah.
I think it's coming back to Virginia next year. That's what they've had to do with a lot of these home and homes. So good call out there. But yeah, Virginia has been somewhat of a surprise this year at how good they've been offensively specifically. And I think that that's going to travel. I think that BYU, they've definitely feasted on some of these teams that haven't quite been as good. And they've been able to take advantage of them. Their defense has kind of caught some breaks with some of the teams they've played. They got Utah before Cam Rising took over at quarterback. They've just opportunistic on defense where they still haven't been necessarily that great. They've just been able to kind of inflate their numbers a little bit. I think that Virginia kind of exposes them. I also think that it does mean a lot to Bronco. He loves being at BYU. He coached there for years. He loves these fans that are going to see this. I don't think that he's going to come in and necessarily rub it in their face, but I think he wants to come in and win the game. Virginia is a 2.5-point underdog, so I get 2.5 points. If I think Virginia is going to win outright, I better pick them with the points. So give me Virginia. I think that they probably win this game close. I think it's probably a less than 10-point victory. I don't think he's going to rub it in or anything. He's going to control the game and take over. Give me Virginia and give me the 2.5.
I don't know if you noticed. Do you know what I haven't mentioned yet?
Your WTF game of the week.
The WTF game of the week. This is it. Our last game on the card. The WTF game of the week. Wrong team favorite, people. Virginia's winning this game straight up by a touchdown. So I think it's a 10-point swing. Look, last year's when BYU should have won this game. BYU is the one that had the fun offense, the explosive offense, the quarterback that's just tossing that thing. To quote Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
This year it's Virginia. Virginia's the one with the fun offense. Virginia's the one with the quarterback that's going to toss that thing like all over the place. Brendan Armstrong's been incredible this year. So I like this to be kind of high scoring. You see the totals is 63. So Vegas is thinking like a 2.5. So what's that? 33-30-ish kind of finish. I like Virginia to win 38-31. So I like Virginia by a touchdown. They're the better team. I just think the offense scores more points than BYU's offense does. Virginia gets a few more stops. It does worry me, and this is why I think this could end up a shootout. Neither defense is great. Virginia's defense is worse, but I think Virginia's offense is better. So I'll take Virginia. And like you mentioned, it's the Bronco Bowl, and Bronco's the head coach at Virginia currently. So I'll take UVA. Wrong team favored. Give me the Who's. Go Cavaliers. That's right. So WTF game of the week. Lock it up. This can be a fun week, man. I did lock up UVA plus 2.5 on our other picks too, because it is the WTF game of the week.
Gotcha.
So over of the week, little side thing, Kansas State and TCU both have awful defenses. So over 58 in that game. Take the over. A little bonus
Zach
pick
Evans
for you.
Play.
So he put TCU stuff back on his Instagram. So
I feel like we're never going to stop talking about this kind of stuff with him.
No, we're not. I hope he has a great career. He's a special back. Daniel, before we get out of here, so we do this. So given what we think is going to happen this week in the games, the first college football playoff rankings come out on Tuesday. what do you think the top 4 is going to be on Tuesday? And by the way, we're allowed to start talking about it now because the rankings start. So now's a good time. You can now mention the playoff. Permission granted.
Yeah, this is so. Obviously, we're going to be predicting what's going on with the games this weekend. With that being said, I think that obviously I'm expecting Georgia to handle Florida this weekend. So I'm going to go Georgia number 1. I think that they've been the number 1 team so far this season. Number 2, with Ohio State taking down Penn State this week, as we're predicting, I expect them to cover and to beat them by 21. I think that's going to be all they need to put them back at that number 2 position in the country's eyes. So I think that's going to be number 2. I think that Oklahoma is going to come in at number 3. I think that's going to be mostly just because of their undefeated record. And we'll probably see some other teams that they've beaten come in the top 25. And then number 4, I'm going to go at Alabama. So I do think that the Tide end up there. They're obviously a bye week this week, but I do think that they're going to have a lot of their name just carries weight in the committee's eyes. And so that's going to be a big deal. I did go ahead and do a first 2 out. My first 2 out, I think, is going to be Michigan because I think they're going to win a close game at Michigan State. So I think they're going to be number 5. And then I think Cincinnati is going to be number 6.
Cincinnati. There you go. We'll get some pushback on that, but that's what's going to happen. I did have one thing to push back on you on.
Do it.
Oregon only has 1 loss, and they beat Ohio State.
I ain't scared.
So I'm going 1 Georgia, Michigan 2, Michigan 2 being undefeated, Bama 3, Oklahoma 4. That's my top 4. And first 2 out, 5 Oregon, 6 Ohio State. And obviously these first rankings mean nothing because a lot of football left. But given what we've got so far, Georgia obviously undefeated, would have beaten, depends on how you want to count ranked opponents. When they played them, they've beaten 4. So it'll all depend. Michigan undefeated. They will have gotten a big top 10 win against an undefeated Michigan State team this week. Undefeated, 8-0. Bama and Oklahoma, I think because there's no common opponent there, different conferences, like you can really argue level of opponent. Bama losing on a last-second field goal on the road, being their only loss. Kansas, again, Oklahoma's won 4 one-score games. So I think Oklahoma's still in the top 4 because they're undefeated, but I think you can rank them behind Alabama given that they're winning a lot of close games against not great teams versus Bama's blowing everybody out, including a big win against Ole Miss, lost a close one on the road. So you can might flip those, but that's where I think it's going to be at on Tuesday night, excuse me. But we'll discuss this again Sunday night. We'll see where we're at after the actual games are played. Maybe we'll change there, and we'll see who can be right about these rankings. Daniel, it'll be a fun week this week. A lot of fun games. Go Braves, my friend. Battle ATL, chop on for the A, all of it.
Beat Houston.
You got to beat the cheaters. So
beat the cheat.
Beat the cheat. You can follow him on Twitter at Deep South Daniel. You can follow me on Twitter at Jacob Carnes with a K. That will do it for this edition of The Extra Point. He is Daniel. I am Jacob.